Matthew Kingsbury. I think they would have expected a little bit more out of themselves as well. Just a bit of a struggle, I guess. And Larry Jackson, that's a solid finish for him. Larry had been lapped a couple of times, came back onto the lead lap. So that's obviously. I think they would have expected a little bit more out of themselves as well. Just a bit of a struggle, I guess. And, looks like we just finally showed up on YouTube. So I'm not sure what happened there, but at least we're on now on YouTube as well. But the big story here is the 17 of DJ Kennington. Man, what a heartbreak. Started second, parts failure, and it was a tough finish. Will, we're here. Spencer on the back end fixing stuff. We started on Facebook, where we're here now. Spencer knows how to work this stuff. I don't. He sets it up. I do the graphics and stuff, but that's about it. And I just want to obviously throw out to him. I mean, he does everything for GeForce TV on the back end here, and he's amazing support. So we'll continue up on our. We're just going up the list of results here. We got to Larry Jackson, DJ Kennington. I know somebody was questioning why he finished where he did. It did. It was a result. I mean, one of the things that can happen over a season is part failures. And unfortunately, that is the culprit. It was a part failure, and DJ struggled. And unfortunately, it doesn't help him in the championship. And I thought that the lead was a little bit too much previous to today's kind of situation as to where he is now in the points. This is going to get even tougher, unfortunately, for him, because ultimately that 96 car, if it does not have an issue, I don't know if they can beat him. Right now, it's the same situation. People are looking at, we're still within the points championship. Well, not really, because you need a big enough field and the 96 to finish low enough for you to be able to take advantage of it. So I don't know whether we're going to see that out of the 17 next week or this upcoming race at CTMP. I don't know. Delaware obviously is a place where you can see him do well. He was pretty well dominant at Delaware last year, but I don't know if that's going to be the case this year. LP Montour, a bit of a struggle actually for LP Montour. Not a top 10, which is where he's actually been for most of the season so far. So a little bit of a disappointment there for LP, but again, he's still new to this situation, and it's something that I hope we get to see a bit more of. I'd like to see LP Montour do a couple oval races too. I mean, I'd like seeing if we could get 2 full-time Dumoulin competition cars out there. I would absolutely love to see that. Dexter Stacy, he had to work for this one. This top 10 did not come easy for him this week, because there was a period where he was down in, I believe, 17th place. And he had to work his way up the field. A couple of guys fell out, so that helped. I think all those basically from 19th to 23rd all fell out of the race. And then the 16th place, Justin Arsenault had a spin. And we never did get to see who it was that made contact with him. It would have, I think, been either Trayton or Brandon, based off of, or maybe it was even Tagliani, based off of where he was situated. So a difficult finish there for the 03, but the 92 continuing to get back on the right track here. Now he heads to CTMP, where he finished his career best 3rd earlier in the spring. So it's a very hopeful situation there for Dexter Stacy that he's able to do that again. Brandon Watson, another guy that struggled, was not very fast. I think it was only 18th quick in the hot laps. Got his way up into 9th, so it's a solid improvement. Trayton Lapsovich as well, same situation for him. Didn't get a lot of time last year because the car failed, and So he had to make up some time again this week. Currently sitting in a good position for a top 5 in points. More than likely is outside of an opportunity. Magic would have to happen, I think, for Trayton to be able to pass everybody to get up into that top spot in the championship. But depending on how the second place, third place guys do at CTMP, you don't know. DJ Kennington has had mechanical problems at CTMP the last couple of years, and we saw Marc-Antoine Cameron have problems there. So it's not impossible. It's just going to be very, very hard. But the Alex Taglioni, somebody else who I expected would have a better race, fell towards the end of the race. He had contact as well. Was racing really aggressively. it was him and Alex Labay that made contact and squeezed Labay into the wall. So Taglioni 7th doesn't help him enough. Again, that's a solid result, but what he needs is to be ahead of the 96, ahead of the 74. Doesn't help him. And really the 74 doesn't matter to him right now because Tag is ahead of the 74 still, right? He needs to be ahead of the 96. The same thing with Kennington, and they need the 96 to be way far back because the loss of points isn't enough if he finishes in 10th. It needs to be like last place and you lead the most laps, win, get the pole position. Andrew Ranger, LP Dumoulin, quiet days for both of those guys. And it's been kind of a quiet season for LP Dumoulin, probably his most frustrating season, I would imagine. And I would imagine that losing Robin McCluskey has a little bit to do with that, changing the guard. But in Alex Labay's return, he gets a 4th place finish, came from last or 22nd on the grid, solid all the way. He and Alex Gannett both had to come from the back. Alex Gannett with Dave Jacobs Racing is a dangerous combination. I really liked that that move in the offseason, and I think it's going to continue to pay. It is my hope that he gets into a Mustang. I know there's no factory support or anything like that, but what I will say is I definitely want to see him full-time again next year. I think that is a good combination with him and Dave Jacobs. Marc-Antoine Cameron did not really put a pedal wrong. He had awful restarts and fell back, but he gained those spots back really with a complete ease. And then Kevin Lacroix goes off and wins once again at Circuit, or I guess Complex Icar, and really not much competition for him. He really was the class of the field. So it is not it's not over if Lacroix goes and wins the next 2 races, but you're going to need the 96 to have a lot of problems. So we're going to go into the point standings right now. We'll talk about where we are. So your top 10 here, as we take a look to the left of the screen, and you're going to have we're only putting the top 10 on here because really you could technically only put the top 5 because the rest of the field really isn't going to be in the championship hunt. We can officially say that Bergeron's not going to win the championship. More than likely, you're going to see Kloot, Watson, Dumoulin, Ranger, and Lapsevich. 40 points is a lot to make up in 2 races. If they were doing something like a double points event, then maybe. But I don't see that that's going to be possible. I think you're looking at your top 4 only. But Marc-Antoine Cameron, still your points leader. He gained points. 16. Or sorry, not 16. He was 12 ahead originally. Now he's 23 points ahead. That's tough. That's a lot. And when you look at it, if that penalty had stuck, it still wouldn't really have mattered because he did better than Kennington did this weekend. Obviously, we can go back and look at what potentially could have affected things, but Kennington, 23 points. I think your real battle is for second place. This battle between second, third, and fourth. Is Kevin Lacroix really going to lose out on the championship again? Man, it looked so set earlier this year, but Cameron really has also been the top guy this year. There's no debating. Whatever the situation is, you can talk about whether the car is legal, whether this is legal, they got penalty, whether they didn't get a penalty. He's also still led the most laps this season by a large margin. So Paye Racing has definitely been the dominant force. Now, we don't know what's going to happen in 2023, whether or not that team expands, and then things might be a little bit more difficult for them. But right now, Cameron's in the catbird seat. Unless they have a failure and he has an issue, I don't see that there's going to be enough cars to make a difference. But hopefully I'm wrong. I mean, hopefully there's a great battle for the championship right down to the last race. But I think this weekend will be the real story. It wasn't so much iCar. I think this is it. 23 points. Either they make up points or they lose points. And or it stays the same, really. And in that case, we know exactly what's going to happen going into Delaware. It wasn't as close this year as it was last year. That's the reality. You had 3 races at Delaware too, instead of just the one. So it's a more complete season this year, a more countrywide season. Kevin Lacroix, 28 points back. He could easily get back into second place. No problem at CTMP for him. Obviously, unless there's a failure, we know he's going to be up near the front. Tagliani, same thing. My question is Kennington. Kennington was 11th, 12th in the spring. Didn't run very well at all and was mid-pack most of the day. So is Kennington going to be able to do what he did in the spring? I don't know. Last year, for example, DJK Racing had failures in both CTMP races on the Saturday and the Sunday. And it was hard. It was a very difficult weekend for them. Trayton Lapsevich, Andrew Ranger battle basically for 5th place. LP Dumoulin, like I said, it's weird seeing LP Dumoulin back there, but he hasn't won, and it's a very big rarity that the 47 has not. But maybe there'll be something, and I think the guy to watch, obviously, because of how he did in the spring, Gary Clute, 59 car, still hungry to win a race. And as I said before, 2023, we do not know what is going to happen next year. We don't know who's going to stay, who might be moving on, who might retire. There's always changes in the off season. I don't know of anything right now. I think we can look at a couple of names on this list and be pretty sure that they're back next year in the exact same situation. The 96, 17, 74, and 47. I think 100% you can confirm Cameron back with Paye, the 96, Kennington back in the 17, Castrol, 74, Napa, Lacroix, and then 47, WeatherTech, Dumoulin. Everything else is still question mark. And yes, I'm saying Tagliani, I'm saying Lapsevich just because I don't know the details of their contracts. Timmy, nice to see you. We're doing good tonight. Watson, again, don't know what the situation is there. Clute, Bergeron. I'm hopeful that we'll see all these names back next year. I think that they're all really good pieces to the championship. I think when you get maybe lower in the series, that'll be a little more interesting. See where people end up. But at the end of the day, this championship battle has not been what it was last year. And that's really because the 96 has been so dominant. So next year, you're going to see more than likely guys that are going to want to not be as nice to the 96 as they were this year. I think, especially when you go back to Newfoundland, I think that Lapsevich could have been a little more aggressive. And I think he knows that he was points racing and he was going to race smart, but maybe they realize next year they don't do that because of how dominant the car was this year. If they add another car, and I keep saying if because I really don't know, but if they add another car, is that going to take away from the 96? We know the 27 is kind of a faux Paye Racing team. It's a White Motorsports team. They've had their struggles this year. Andrew's not. He's had one win, and really just this weekend at iCar didn't really seem to be there. It just seemed to struggle. And so hopefully CTMP will right the ship again. And then Delaware, we really don't know. Now, we're theoretically, potentially, and I'm saying this is potential, CTMP we know typically gets a large car count. Same with GP3R, Toronto, the higher events, the bigger events. A main base of around 19-20 cars all season long is what we've seen. I don't believe we've had a race where we've had under 20, which is a huge improvement for this series, and it bodes very well heading into next year. Where my question lies is, of course, CTMP this year and then Delaware this year. I think you're going to see a lot of potential names come out for that race at Delaware Speedway and the race at CTMP. Now, I don't know too much about who's going to be there yet. I normally just do predictions based off of what announcements have been made, also with who has previously announced they were going to be on road courses. So let's take a look here. So our next race is at CTMP. It is going to be, I don't have the updated the logo. They haven't actually released the logo, I guess, yet on the NASCAR.ca website. So I don't have it, but it is going to be the WeatherTech 200. So thank you, WeatherTech, for coming on and sponsoring our weekly event at CTMP. This eBay Motors was the first one. So I've highlighted there. It looks like it is a little too small, unfortunately, for the stream. But what you're looking at is NASCAR Pinty Series schedule of events. Of course, is the Labor Day sprints at CTMP. So there's lots of racing going on. If you are a NASCAR Pinty Series only, you're looking at Saturday, Sunday. There's no action for the series on Friday. 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock is your practice on Saturday. And then qualifying is at 5 to 6. All right. The race itself, once again, 51 laps. So WeatherTech 200, 1 o'clock to 3 p.m. on the Sunday. Okay, so that's definitely what you're going to be looking for. Now, these are, of course, are possible entries for who we're going to see. So your common names that we've seen kind of all season long: Glenn Stiers, JP Bergeron. We expect TJ Renamato to be back. We haven't seen the 3-car for EHR a ton in the last couple of races. It's had a couple of rotating drivers in it. It was not at Circuit iCar. I would expect maybe CTMP it is available, hopefully. As far as we know, there's not an expectation that we're going to see it. I have not heard anything, but my hope is they'll release some sort of presser within the week. Ryan or Peter Kloot, we expect in the 6-car for Legendary Motor Car. Ray Jr. Cordomash, who we typically will see here. Brandon Watson, LP Montour, DJ Kennington, Alex Tagliani, and Andrew Ranger. We expect MBS Motorsports and Daniel Blois to return. Of course, he's been very impressive. That whole team has been impressive in the 2 starts that they've had, 2 top 10 runs. Spoiled at CTMP, technically also spoiled. He was running top 5 in Toronto before some late contact into the tire wall. Daniel Blois, of course, watched that 31 MBS Motorsports Chevrolet, see how they do here. Alex Gannett in the 39s, also been very hot on the road courses as of late. Winner at GP3R, 3rd place at iCar. LP Dumoulin in the 47 always contends for wins at CTMP. Gary Kloot also. Brent Weller, we can expect more than likely see him back. He typically runs the Ontario road courses. At least he has this season. Mark Dilley, Wallace Stacey, Brian Cathcart, we expect to be back. Kevin Lacroix, Larry Jackson, Dexter Stacey, Marc-Antoine Cameron looking to preserve that points lead. Sam Fellows, it's his home race. Definitely got to be there. And Matthew Scannell, we know he's going to put in a great effort, as he definitely is always excited to be at CTMP. So potentially we could see a big field of cars. I do know of at least one other entry. I cannot confirm it yet because there's not been a press release, and I don't want to announce or make an announcement as to who it could be, especially if the deal doesn't end up happening. We want to make sure we're respecting the teams and what their desires are. The other one that is not expected is the 67 of David Thorndike. Typically would run this race, but unfortunately David is recovering from a health concern, so he is not going to be able to race. But I'm hopeful we'll see a couple more surprises trickle in for the CTMP race. Maybe somebody like a JF Dumoulin, maybe the 07 for Dumoulin Competition runs again. It would be great to see. With it being on a Sunday, maybe Alex Labbe is able to make the trip and do a second straight race. I have not heard that he's going to or not, but you never know. Things could be in the works behind the scenes. But right now, again, the field looking really strong heading into the second last race. Again, we were looking at potentially 27, 28 cars at the beginning of the year. I think things starting to dwindle down. Sponsorship, money, just the cost of running is definitely affecting these guys. A team that we typically would see out here, Jocelyn Facteau, has not even been able to make a start this year. So there's a lot still that we have to continue to do for this NASCAR Pinty Series, which is promote, try and get some new companies interested. Got local businesses that we've seen before on these race cars, and local drivers. I think there's a bunch of us that are hoping that next year will continue the momentum of car counts. I think one of the things that has been noticeable is that the competition level towards the back of the field has been a little bit distant. There's normally a pack of maybe 3 to 4 guys that run together that are quite off the pace, but they have their good battles together. I think that RGC Sports, if they continue on this hot streak, I mean, who knows what we're going to see. I think that names like what we saw already, Jake Sheridan, getting that opportunity, I think that may have opened a lot of eyes. I think Shea Gemmel is somebody else who I'd love to see come back to this series. We already know about Kyle Steckley, who I could expect. I mean, this is the thing. We're going to Delaware in a couple of weeks too. So there's a couple of names that run out of Delaware Speedway that I think fit this series quite well. And it would be nice to see more entries, at least for the finale, similar to what we used to see at Jukasa. Jukasa, we used to get a good amount of drivers and teams that would come for the finale. We had Chantel Kalika come all the way out for the finale. Jamie Krizik came out for the finale. So last year we had Cole Powell, who came out there. Malcolm Strawn raced in the finale as well. So I don't think it's crazy to have a couple of potential drivers, even at least for that number 3 car. I don't know if Brett Taylor would be back. I don't believe so, but there's obviously some change that's happening once again in the NASCAR Pinty Series, and we're going to be looking towards the off season in 2022. What is going to happen for 2023? Well, we have a new look here on the NASCAR Pinty Series Power Hour. I want to know what you guys think of it as well, because it's definitely been a work in progress. It's going to look a lot more like our live stream stuff that we do on the NASCAR Pinty Series community page, which has now surpassed 5,700 members strong. So, of course, if you've not joined NASCAR Pinty Series community on Facebook, we'd love to have you. We've got a couple more tidbits we want to touch on. We want to send a special happy birthday message out to the creator of Quick Wick, Frank Wall, who's one of the biggest supporters of racing in Canada, biggest supporters of racing in general. He's a supporter of G-Force, supporter of our Stickers and Scuffs podcast. And so Frank celebrates a birthday today. Definitely want to throw out a happy birthday to him. I want to send well wishes to Canadian Vintage Modified driver Mike Pod, who was injured after a scary wreck that he wasn't actually really a part of. A scary wreck at Flamborough Speedway where a car went over the fence and into the back area, and unfortunately Mike was there and was injured. So definitely well wishes to him. Congratulations out for NASCAR Pinty Series driver Chantel Kalika, who got another feature win out at Sutherland Automotive Raceway. It's, I believe, her second feature win in maybe this year. And so that's a solid run for her. Hopefully we get to see Chantel, maybe Busch Racing, come in for the Delaware finale. I think a couple of names that maybe we saw out in Newfoundland, like to see them maybe come out for the finale as well. It's an opportunity. It's the last race of the season. Get out there, run the car, see what we can get. If not, obviously we're going to wrap the season up in an amazing fashion. One thing we also have available now is if you go to MBS Motorsports on Facebook, you can also find that they have merchandise. NASCAR Pinty Series merchandise now available for MBS Motorsports. They have t-shirts and hoodies with your number 31 MBS Motorsports on the front, Daniel Bois on the back. Obviously, they're planning on doing a bit more heading into 2023. So I think we can look forward to that. Also look forward to the NASCAR Pinty Series finale as we finish up at CTMP. Obviously, you've got a real tough battle here for the win and tough battle for the championship. But as we finish this weekend and we move on, there really isn't going to be a real big break here. You're going to have a 1 week turnaround in between Delaware and CTMP, but that's not a lot of time, so we're going to have to see what's going to happen. So Mike Russell in the chat here letting us know Canadian Legend Asphalt Nationals this weekend at Sunset Speedway, a NASCAR track, of course, that we go to start our season. So if you're close to Innisfil, Ontario, make sure you get out there and enjoy some of the Legend cars. Obviously one of the things that we want to recommend most is, the NASCAR Pinty Series. We're racing on Sundays, so if you want to go out there and support on the weekend, go to your local racetrack as well if you can't make it out to CTMP. Obviously, like I said, we're hoping for a safer CTMP weekend. It was an extremely tough weekend for the fans in the spring with the tornado coming through. There was some injuries and lots of damage to CTMP, lots of damage to people's property, trailers, camping equipment. It was a really awful situation. Pretty miserable weekend in general, just with the weather not playing around very well. So hopefully the weather outlook is going to be better for this upcoming weekend for the Labor Day sprints. I'll be out there with FEL, with the Nissan Sentra Cup, among others. Obviously, the NASCAR Pinty Series is going to be looking for 2023 to continue the strength from this year. What we're looking for is more and more fans. We're looking for more and more support. And, of course, want to hear from you guys as to what you've thought. Obviously, Ohsweken Speedway worked out really well. A lot of positivity from that event. I think Tony Spiteri coming in to Pinty, seeing him up at the racetrack, he's definitely getting and bringing guests into the races. Murray Adams says, Oswego Labor Day Classic on Sunday for the Super Modifieds. Obviously, we're going to talk about the NASCAR Pinty Series here, but obviously if you're out near Oswego Speedway, you can't make it CTMP, definitely go out and support. Do whatever you can to support them week in and week out, because without those racetracks, you won't have racing. That's just the truth. I know a lot of tracks are really hurting this year. A lot of drivers and teams are hurting. It is really tough out there with the pandemic affecting so many businesses and costs being driven up on everything. So parts and tires and availability of machinery and cars and people. It has been one of the toughest years in motorsports for Canadian racing fans. But you know what? I think momentum will carry us into next year. Hopefully we can get a bit more support out there. Businesses can see the benefit of being involved in motorsports. I mean, there's a lot of potential here. I think you're going to see a lot more heading into 2023. I think there's a lot that we can look forward to with the NASCAR Canada team. I think it's going to benefit us fans up here. There's a lot of things that were questionable at times this year. We've had a great year. That's absolutely true. But I think questions within legitimacy of race teams, legitimacy of cars, questions on penalties, questionable behavior on the racetrack, that's going to happen with racing. It does. It absolutely does. And if people are as upset as I believe they are over circumstances that have taken place, we're more than likely going to see some changes. Whether that's in teams, in drivers, on racetracks. We know, of course, already that there is going to be some consistent stuff. What's not going away? You're not going to see Newfoundland go away because they've signed on for 2 more years. You're not going to see Ohsweken because they've signed on for 2 more years. GP3R has already confirmed their date for next year. So that's happening. There's still question marks. There's question marks on Toronto. We can expect that more than likely they'll be there. You never know. You never know if there's going to be a change there. It's all about whether or not you get the right sponsorship, whether it's enough from the series, whether the teams and drivers are able to make that trip. I think a couple of races maybe are questionable. I don't know how much the schedule will change next year, if any. I know there's a lot of people that are looking and saying, well, we got to go out to BC. And I agree. I think right now it's still very tough for this series. I really believe that if we make moves too fast, we're going to lose what we already have. And payouts, I think, still need to be a little bit higher. Just from my understanding from what teams and drivers, obviously they're the ones competing and they're the ones spending the money. So they're going to want to make sure that is fixed. But one thing else we can look forward to potential changes is if the ratings continue to go up. And that's what we really need. We need people to go out and support being either at the racetrack. I think attendance has been really good this year. Every race that I have been to has been pretty well packed. One thing I think that is going to be we're going to be very interested at is how many races next year. I think, is there going to be additional races in additional provinces? I looked at it and go, I don't know whether or not there's a future for all these tracks on the circuit. I know there's a couple of tracks that need the NASCAR Pinty Series. I think the NASCAR Pinty Series needs a companion series. And I know weekly racing is what's been put along with it, but I think that there's companion series that could benefit, whether it's APC, Superstocks, OSS, OSCAR. That is what works best. I know weekly racing wants to be a part of that too. I can't really say that that's always the best call. I think that with at least the Pinty Series, you have to make it worth the ticket, and I would love to see. I don't know if there's a place to do it other than maybe Delaware. I don't know if Sunset is an option, but I'd love to see an APC Pinty Series combination weekend. I know there was talk of it last year. COVID obviously screwed everything up, but we are going to be on the right path for next year. We're going to continue. I need to hear from fans, though. I need to hear what people think, what they want to hear, what they want to know, because if we can make it happen, I think that's the biggest thing. Is we want to try and continue to grow the series, grow this show, and grow the media presence for the NASCAR Pinty Series, and try and bring as much attention, as many new eyes to the series, companies to the series, race fans to the series. I know it's getting a lot of good press and love from Matt Weaver and Joseph Srigley in the U.S., but we definitely need those Canadian corporations to continue to come on board, like the Quick Wicks, like Pinty's. They have been amazing, and I think we've got a lot to look forward to still. But we're going to wrap it up for today. We had a small crowd of you guys tuned in today for the iCar race. Obviously, I expect we'll see a bit more people in next weekend for CTMP, and then, of course, it'll be crazy because we're going to be talking about the finale. We'll be talking about 2023, the silly season. I don't know if we really get one here. There's not really a big situation with teams and drivers as such here. It's more individuals that own their own cars. But you know what? Kyle, you're coming in right at the end, my friend. But it is... I think the positivity is there. I think you've got a lot of names in this series and a lot of names lower divisions that I think are primed and ready to be moved up into the position of coming into this series. I don't know as many names out in Quebec. I'd like to know a little bit more of the future stars out there, but I think for sure you've got a lot of Ontario talent out here, and I think if we can continue on this groove for next year, I don't think, I'm hoping we can surpass anything that we've seen before. And it's going to be a hard task for sure. But I think listening to the fans is the biggest thing. And there's a great opportunity for you guys to speak and talk about the situation. I'm not talking trashing, because that is not what we want. Trashing doesn't prove anything. But constructive criticism is definitely welcomed to the NASCAR Pinty Series, and trying to improve as much as possible. So that's going to wrap it up for the NASCAR Pinty Series Power Hour this week. Not as much to talk about. It was a pretty kind of mundane race. It really wasn't crazy. Not much changed in terms of the point standings, and I think this is where we're looking at these last two races, and then really, if we get any news into who potentially is going to be added to the Delaware roster or added into the series in the future, that'll be something to watch. But I want to thank each one of you for tuning in on G-Force TV tonight. I want to thank each and every person that's associated with G-Force. Of course, Spencer for helping us out with our tech issues once again. Adam Clinton, Greg, and the entire crew, of course, they were excellent. Make sure you replay and watch the event at Sauble Speedway for the APC Series. A fantastic race out there. Definitely go make sure you check them out. Also, if you want to, make sure you go out there, subscribe, because there's going to be a lot more content coming from the G-Force team. And I expect it's going to continue to grow well into the off season and into next year. I think from what they've already shown us, this finale weekend at Delaware, we're going to see quite a bit of stuff on there from G-Force as well. So I want to thank you guys all for tuning in tonight. Have yourselves a great week. It is CTMP week. I'll see you back on the NASCAR Pinty Series Power Hour next Monday at 7. And we'll see you as well on the NASCAR Pinty Series community Facebook group for our pre-race and post